Hey guys, this is Brandon from the Let Me Put My Pants On podcast, where pants are optional.
Whoop, whoop.
Yeah, you can also say fuck on this show, right guys?
You can say fuck, yes.
Yeah, sitting with me is our other host, Jaleesa Johnson.
What's up?
And the beautiful Katie Hinckley.
Hello.
And we got Matt running the mics and pretty much the whole show, right? We don't understand any of this stuff. I'm not a scientist. And with us tonight, or today, this morning, I've never been up this early before.
Oh, watch that glass right there, real close to the edge. Yeah.
I've been drinking. Oh man, someone just sent me a dick pic.
What? Breaking news, guys.
Breaking news. This just
Hold on,
in.
Pause. It's
Brandon's
not bad.
got a grinder.
Wow. That's
Sorry.
so
Sorry.
sick.
Very positive.
This is really unprofessional. I'm sorry,
Oh no!
Betty.
Wait, can we say dick in this
we
podcast?
All right, dick's away. All right, so I'm really excited about today. We're going to be talking a lot about HIV, AIDS, PrEP, Truvada. We'll get to them. I got the biggest expert in all the land.
Whoop,
Mr. Benny Cartwright. He's born and raised in San Diego his whole life. He's been working at the center as the director of community outreach for 4 years now.
Mm-hmm.
He writes a monthly column for the Gay San Diego newspaper. He's vice chair of the Hillcrest Town. He's basically our leader. You don't want to mess with
Literally
this.
the gay lord.
He's also like one of the nicest people I know. I love him. Thank you for being here,
Thank
Benny.
you. I'm glad to be here. And I do like dick pics, so it's totally fine. Totally fine.
Awesome. Okay, well, I asked you to be here today because, when I think about, like, PrEP and Truvada, I think of hashtag Be The Generation, and that's a campaign that you and the center and Rick Cervantes started, right? So you want to tell us a little bit about that real quick?
Yeah, the real brief, because I know we're going to get into a lot of it, but Be The Generation is the center's campaign to launched in October 2014, so we're at 3 years, to end new cases of HIV by 2024. Ooh. And we'll talk a lot today about how we do that, but it basically, at the top level of it, is just to fight the fear, shaming, and stigma that surrounds HIV. Because if we can fight and end that fear and stigma, then all the other things will fall into place, like testing, getting people into treatment, and
100%.
all the other stuff. So our goal really is by 2024 to at least significantly decrease, if not end, new cases of HIV in San Diego.
Fuck yeah, man.
Goosebumps.
You want
I
to?
got goosebumps too listening to you talk. I love your voice.
You're gonna
what
do
I
it
do.
like polio. You want to eradicate
Absolutely.
that bitch.
Yep, absolutely.
Let's break it down because there's probably a lot of people that are going to be listening that have no idea what we're talking about. Like, you hear the term PrEP a lot. You hear Truvada sometimes. I Googled this before you got here. PrEP stands for pre-exposure prophylaxis.
Correct.
How would you explain this as simple as you can?
Yeah. So pre-exposure prophylaxis. So think about the word pre-exposure. Before you are exposed to something, I don't really know what prophylaxis means, but before you are exposed to something, PrEP protects you. So you don't have HIV, but if you are exposed to HIV, meaning HIV goes into your body, PrEP kills it on command, kind of like one of those rodent ant blaster things.
my
Kills it on
goodness.
command. You have enough medicine in your body that should the virus go into your body, it kills it and it doesn't replicate. What HIV does, long story short, it makes millions of copies of itself in your body when it goes into your body. PrEP just kills it on command.
You know what? I think it's amazing that this is the beginning of the closest thing that I've heard to a cure. And I've heard some articles circulating too. So is this kind of along the lines, or we'll probably get into maybe there's different types, but I mean, this is amazing. This is the beginning of the end of an era.
This is one of the things that frustrates me with this conversation though. Why doesn't everybody know that this exists? There's a pill you could take once a day, among other things.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, one thing with that is, to address what you said, is that absolutely it's not necessarily a cure because we are not scientists and we are not setting out necessarily to cure the virus.
Right.
That's what our scientists and our medical community is doing. However, I'm sure there's something in there that's related.
Yeah.
We as public health professionals, though, can stop it from being passed from person to person.
Amazing.
So good point. And as to the fact that why everyone doesn't know about this, that's a fantastic question. Unfortunately, America was founded by Puritans.
That's right.
And for the however goddamn long this country's been around, I don't know, 200
Quaker
something
Oats,
years.
man. Quaker Oats.
Yeah, 200 something years. We have been afraid of sex, and we're still afraid of sex, and we're very afraid of HIV.
Yeah.
And anything that relates to those topics, we'd rather not talk about.
It's scary.
Absolutely scary. And when PrEP came out, there were some high-level campaigns to discredit PrEP.
Yeah.
Wow.
Not only put out by the anti-gay, anti-sex people, but by the AIDS Healthcare Foundation,
Oh, no.
the leading AIDS company or nonprofit in the world. I am not afraid to shame Michael Weinstein, who is the leader of that organization, who actually started as a grassroots HIV activist fighting the virus in the 80s. His organization has become the largest HIV/AIDS organization in the world.
Yeah.
I don't blame a lot of the people who work for his agency. There's some good people, including in San Diego.
Right.
But that man put out
Propaganda.
saying that PrEP is bad. And that started, and we're struggling to get over those myths.
There's this I hear this sometimes though, that like, oh well, if you just wear condoms, you don't need to be on that, like, or you're a slut if you're on that, you know.
Condoms are scary too. I mean,
What-
they're not all. Like,
Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, well, first I was just going to say, like, why would the AIDS Foundation, was it because they want more money because they could get research to study AIDS rather, like, if you cure it or you get it less prevalent, then they don't get as much money? Is that what the basic principle is behind that?
It's a very good question. And I don't want to get into conspiracy theories. I hear that's at the end of the show. But
We'll talk about it then.
It very well could be. I mean, and I honestly don't have an answer. No one really knows.
Okay.
But it honestly could be. They make a lot of money on treating people living with HIV, and if we decrease that number, their funding goes away, and that's absolutely horrific and
That's
terrible.
horrible.
But that
makes
really,
sense.
their business model is treating people living with HIV.
Wow.
And of course we want to treat people living with HIV
Yeah, of
and
course.
support them, but that's their business model.
They don't want to do better if they can't profit
Yeah.
off.
Just like pharmaceuticals, some say that if we
Preach.
can cure something, well then there's no more need for HIV and AIDS drugs.
Yeah.
Can we talk Magic Johnson for a
Yeah.
minute? What the hell?
Absolutely.
Come on, he's not that magical.
Wait,
Absolutely.
So just so everybody understands. So when somebody says they're on PrEP, I take PrEP or whatever, what they're really saying is that can mean like any kind of HIV treatment or prevention, right? Am I understanding that right?
Well, PrEP currently, as it relates to HIV, the only PrEP out there is a blue pill that is under the brand name of Truvada.
Okay.
Now, PrEP is the generic term for a medication that prevents HIV. Again, there is only one medicine approved currently, and it's called Truvada.
Okay.
There are 5 or 6 others the FDA are studying. So eventually, when we say, I am on PrEP, it may mean you're on Truvada or any number of other pills.
When they're approved.
That
is
But
probably
right
what
now,
I'm reading,
Truvada is the only one. So you may say, I'm on a high blood pressure medicine. And there's probably 10 high blood pressure medicines. So that's not saying which one you're on. You may be on Liposol, or I
Yeah,
think
right.
it's
Like-
called that. But you may also be on Crapasol. I don't know the name. But yeah, so PrEP is the generic term for a class of drugs that prevents HIV.
Got
Very
it.
nice.
But Truvada is the only one currently. And just a quick note on Truvada. Truvada, a lot of people say, well, it's only been around 4 or 5 years. We don't know the effects of it. Truvada actually has been around 25 years.
Wow.
The
What?
medicine called Truvada was used for many years to treat people living with HIV. Some people living with HIV still use Truvada in combo with other things. But he was probably on Truvada at some
I mean,
point.
it makes scientific sense.
Yep.
Now we just know.
Yeah, and there's multiple drugs that people living with HIV take. So if you talk about the ARTs, or what people living with HIV take, antiretroviral therapy, so maybe 10 to 20 different, depending on your doctor, what they prescribe in your body. But for prevention, there's only Truvada. They reformulated the old Truvada to be used. It's a lower dosage.
Less side effects,
Yeah,
probably.
less side effects. But we're basically, Brandon and I are both on Truvada PrEP.
Whoa.
And we're putting lower doses of HIV treatment medicine into our bodies, even though we don't have HIV.
Right.
But then if HIV comes into our body,
It'll
it
kill
will
it.
kill it.
And that's
fantastic.
Are you sure you're not a scientist?
I was going to say,
sounds
am
like
not.
a scientist.
this sounds almost a little like birth control for HIV.
Yes, it is. I've said that on stage. Like,
that's exactly what it sounds like to me, which is like, why, I mean, first
so
of all,
revolutionary.
why aren't they handing
but
this out
simple.
like candy? Like,
Like,
there should be a
seriously.
big bowl of it at the bars. Okay, anyways.
The birth control analogy is actually a wonderful analogy that we use all the time because some of the stigma surrounding PrEP is the same as what surrounds birth control. When birth
100%.
control came out in the 50s and 60s, they doctors wouldn't want to give it to
That's
women
exactly
because they
what I
said,
wanted to
"Are
say.
you a slut? Are you cheating on your husband? I need your husband's authorization for you to do this." We're hearing the same thing even from some doctors,
Today.
even doctors in San Diego, California, that will say, I don't want to give this to you because I don't want to give you a license to have sex. And we'll get into sex positivity soon, I'm sure. But you can have all the sex you want.
I'm glad you mentioned that because my next question, I wanted to talk about how someone would get prescribed this. Because for somebody like me that's poor, that's living on food stamps, that I didn't always have insurance till Obamacare came around or whatever you want to call it. I went to first I went to Planned Parenthood. I went to several Planned Parenthoods. None of them knew what the hell I was talking about. They're like,
Wow.
what? They thought I was like making shit up. Then I went to a clinic and I was like, not the greatest part of town. And the doctor, she didn't believe me at first, but then she went and looked it up and she's like, oh, wow, this is a thing. And I was like, yeah, can you prescribe me this? And she's like, I'm not comfortable prescribing you this. Like, it would probably be better if you found a gay doctor.
What? She said that?
Yeah, she told me to try to find a
What?
gay doctor in Hillcrest to
What is
prescribe
that
me
fuss?
this.
I mean, a doctor for
And-
gay people or a doctor that is
And I know
gay?
she probably meant well, but it's just like, it frustrated me. It's like, you're a doctor. I showed you this. Like, this is really, like, why do you
Gay
refuse
doctors,
to give
gay
this to me?
marriage.
Like, she just didn't want to learn,
Yeah, that's crazy, dude.
So, today, somebody that may be listening that wants to get on Truvada, like, how would they go about getting prescribed this?
Oh, yeah.
That's a wonderful question. And unfortunately, the experience Brandon just shared is far too common, even in major metropolitan areas like San Diego and others.
Wow.
Because some doctors, aren't comfortable. Doctors don't like to talk about sex, believe it or not. Doctors are human too, and it makes them uncomfortable.
Grey's Anatomy lied to us.
Absolutely, yeah, right. It did. And even people who, disclose, I am a gay male, or I am a lesbian, or I'm a transgender individual, doctors get uncomfortable with that because they don't know what to do. And especially trans people, they don't know how to handle trans bodies and how to do that. And that can be something we get into later if it comes up. But there are many resources and people who want to get on PrEP. If you're in San Diego, California, absolutely come to the San Diego LGBT Community Center.
Yes.
We have a full-time dedicated employee whose title is called PrEP Coordinator.
Nice.
They can do everything but prescribe it because we're not a medical facility. They can find you a PrEP-friendly doctor. If you are uninsured on Medicare, Medi-Cal, Nebraska, whatever, they can tell you how to access it. We can set you up with an insurance plan or a
Guide you.
government-funded insurance plan. And if you can't get on insurance for whatever reason, if it's immigration status, we can get you into the assistance programs.
Thank you. I'm like crying right now. This
Yeah,
is-
I know,
that's what we do.
This is music to my ears.
I got goosebumps again.
Absolutely. Our only goal is to get people on PrEP. We don't care who you are, where you come from, if you're straight, gay, lesbian, bi, transgender, non-binary, what your immigration status is. We can give a damn if you live in China. We don't care. We just
shout
want to
out.
get you on PrEP, although it's not approved in China, so we'd have to sneak it to you via
Pull some
mail.
strings.
That is exactly what we do every day. We, in fact, on the LGBT of San Diego Center's website, we have a PrEP-friendly doctor list. These are doctors we have found that will not say what Brandon said.
The gay
And
doctors.
they're not all gay doctors either. They're just cool doctors.
Yeah.
I have a straight doctor who's PrEP-friendly, and he's very
Nice.
cute.
Cute
I'm
lady
going to see him at
doctor.
2 o'clock today. That's good.
Hey,
So,
yeah.
I was gonna say, I feel like one of the only things that could really fix that kind of problem where people are uncomfortable and being human too and whatever is to talk about it more and get the education out there. Like what aside from all the amazing efforts that you're doing at the center and with the Beta Generation thing, what are some things that people can do to promote that kind of awareness? Like what kind of sexual education things can we talk about just amongst anyone and everyone?
Yeah, I think people in general should just talk about sex first and foremost. A big thing with the Be the Generation campaign is sex positivity and talking about sex. Sex is something that we should celebrate, have as long as it's legal and consensual, because there's issues with consent. But beyond that, if Brandon and I wanted to have sex on this table right now, and we should.
That can be
Who's gonna stop us?
We should
Jalisa?
we should record it, and then we should talk about it after. So
Let me take my prep first.
exactly. So, but something we do at the center that we've launched is, so we have this group of people called the Be the Generation Ambassadors.
Okay.
These are our volunteers, and you're all welcome to join the team. These are our volunteers, and not only do they go out and do regular volunteer stuff, they go to health fairs and sit at tables for us and talk about the program. They go on our bar crawls, they pass out condoms, but we also train them so that besides the formal volunteer stuff, when they're out on their own, they can just talk about this. They don't need to say, call Benny and Rick or David at the center on Monday to ask about PrEP. If one of your roommates walked up to you and said on the couch in the middle of the night, someone just had sex with me, I wasn't wearing a condom, I'm freaking out, what do I do? You should be able to say right then and there, here's what you need to do, here's where you can get a test. There's a thing called PEP, which we can talk about. It's like the morning after for HIV.
I've heard of that. Yeah.
Really?
We'll come back into that.
And you should just be able to say, here's where you can go and do that. So we train, I have about 85 people I've trained that just can have the conversations on their own, in their own social groups, out in the community. So they don't have to say, call Benny. And I'm always available 24/7. My Grindr and my Facebook Messenger. I'm
love you.
absolutely available at all times.
Call Benny.
Yeah.
Yes, you
It
are.
is. Yeah. And I'm never upset. I'm never bothered.
Do you ever sleep?
I actually do, but I have no hobbies otherwise. I'm not interested in anything really. So, I
don't even think you take drugs.
So, I don't. I just drink a lot. But,
I was gonna say I'm not interested in other things other than saving the fucking human race.
Totally. And that's what I do. So, but I'm not busy crocheting or anything. So anyway.
So back to what we were talking about.
Yes.
Okay, so you finally find a gay doctor, right? I found a gay doctor. You get a doctor that'll prescribe you PrEP. Do you want to walk us through what's all involved being prescribed PrEP? What's it like? Walk us through it, please.
Absolutely. So if the doctor does it right, what should happen is the doctor will have a conversation with you about if this is right for you. Of course, they'll check to make sure you're not taking any other medications that will interact. It's rare that anything will interact, but some people have some severe health issues. That just you shouldn't put another chemical into your body. They will then send you for labs. You will be tested, of course, for HIV to make sure you're not living with the virus. They will test you for STDs just because. And that's a good thing.
Yes.
They will STIs, excuse me, sexually.
We're all learning. Yeah.
They will actually test you for liver function as well as bone density. People with liver issues or low bone density issues should not take PrEP. And you would know if you have those things. Those are rare things. If you have bone density issues, it could affect your bone density even more.
Fair enough. Good to know.
And if you have liver function issues, they're not going to want to put more
Pressure
chemicals and
on
stress on it.
Yeah.
So they'll test for all those things. If those things come back, cool, good, passed.
You're good to go.
They actually, per Gilead, which is the maker of Truvada, you'll sign a contract with your doctor saying, I, the doctor, pledge to give you these tests on this many occasions, and I, the patient, pledge to show up for those tests, or my prescription will be canceled. And then
Accountability.
Yeah, and then they prescribe it.
And typically that's every 3 months, right?
Yeah, it depends on the medical provider. So we used to say, until we learned better from other patients and clients, we thought it was every 3 months, but actually the Gilead actually only requires it at least once a year. Oh, wow. But I go to Sharp Healthcare, which is quite wonderful with sexy doctors, and they offer you tea. They offer you tea when you check in. It's very nice. Ooh. And they require every 4 months. Family Health Centers of San Diego, for example, which is a local free clinic that's very good with PrEP.
Yeah.
They do a 6-month requirement.
Okay.
But we've heard other places that are just yearly. But in general, I'd say 6 months would be the average.
Oh, wow. Okay. I've always heard 3 months. That's what I do.
And we did say that for a long time, and most providers are doing that, but it's actually not required.
I always heard that because we gotta check your kidneys, make sure your kidneys aren't gonna fail. But
yeah.
That's just you,
prep making my kidneys fail is the least of my concerns.
Yeah, all the alcoholics
all
need
the
3
other
month
things,
checks.
yeah.
But the other side effect of that is going into the doctor every 3 months. When I'm going in every 3 months to do whatever they need to do to keep my PrEP prescription going, they're not just testing for that. They're also testing me for everything else. They're doing the butt swabs, the mouth swabs. They're testing for all STIs.
Butt swabs?
What's
you
up
gotta,
with that?
in case I don't got any funny business downstairs.
We can talk about it. You can tell me.
Gonorrhea.
Thank you.
If things that are a part of a human body go into your anus, your ass, your butt, be it a tongue or a penis
butt
or
pussy.
a finger, your butt pussy.
Please,
Butt pussy, please.
You're susceptible for
of course.
STIs. So we have found that I'm a scientist. The medical community has found that there are some. So in general, when you get an STI checkup, all they do is blood and urine. That's the typical, that's standard.
Yeah.
But we have found some site-specific bacterium. I sound so scientific. Bacteria
You are a scientist.
that will sit on your throat or your ass or on the tip of your penis. Dick, why am I being so professional? I said throat, ass, or penis.
You said penis.
I know. That could only be, I prefer the word penis. I feel like dick and cock. I only want to say that when I'm like
in the midst
drunk
of
at
your man meat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like if Brandon and I were filming that thing, it's like, Brandon, show me your cock. But
I feel the same way. Yeah, I feel like I'm always like sexting. I'm just like, let me see your penis.
That's
and
exactly.
It's just like, oh wait.
My colleagues at work have actually had to teach me because we're very sex positive at the center, which we're going to get into. Awesome. But my colleagues are like talking to people and like, yeah, your dick and your cock and your, and I'm just like, so are you my penis and my anus? And when we're doing HIV tests, the forms actually say, we have to ask the person, are you the top or the bottom? But it says anal insertive or anal receptive. So,
wow. Like your neurotransmitters or something.
Absolutely. So we, though, when we have our conversations, people have to translate the form to say, are you the top or the bottom? But then I have to check off anal insertive or anal receptive.
Do you think brain cells are having anal sex?
So right, exactly. Anyway, yeah, you were we talking about when you go in for these checks? Yeah, and that's the thing with the condom conversation is that a lot of people, including Michael Weinstein from AHF, AIDS Healthcare Foundation, I don't like to use acronyms, have said that Truvada and PrEP is the new party drug, and it's going to cause new cases of syphilis and gonorrhea.
Oh my
god! Just like birth control, right?
Everyone's going to get all this stuff. But to be honest with you, the only group of humans on this planet who are getting STD exams more than anyone else are people on PrEP.
HIV. Oh my gosh, yes. I learned that in
people
sex ed in Houston. They, believe it or not, in Texas, they were teaching that people with HIV positive results are actually healthier than the average
because they're seeing doctors.
Because they're seeing doctors more often and getting what they need more often. Yeah, people that are just like, oh, I'm fine. I have nothing to worry about. Are watching their bodies just go to shit.
Julissa, I used to never see a doctor, but every time I go in for my PrEP checkup, I'll come in with something weird like, hey, doc, I got this weird lump on my
You're proactive. You're
Can we take a look
now.
at that?
That's what I think it does. PrEP is all about preparation. That's the idea, right? You can prepare for anything. It's just being proactive. I love that.
Well, and I think with being more proactive and being more comfortable talking about sex, this kind of couples with a lot of mental health things as well.
Oh, yeah.
People are more reaching out and getting help and actually trying to be healthier
now
because
more than ever,
they're aware of it and realizing that they're not alone and it's not just some weird fucked up thing that you're having to deal with, and realizing that other people are dealing with it too means that you can go out and you can ask for help now. And I think that's the biggest thing that needs to change is like, we should be able to talk about sex. We should be able to talk about if something happened to us, or like if we're having weird feelings, like we should be able to all be able to talk
Personally, my own experience, I'll tell you, before I started PrEP, I was very sexually
active.
not smart.
Oh,
What's the word?
okay.
Irresponsible?
Irresponsible. Yeah, I couldn't think of that
What I
word.
was thinking,
That word's
yeah.
just not in my vocabulary.
Yeah, that's Katie, the Walking Dictionary. You're welcome.
Irresponsible. I was very sexually irresponsible. This was before prep, and I had it in my mind, Benny, that I was gonna get prescribed prep. I was gonna be like a wild sex party, like slut for a while, and then eventually I'd find a boyfriend. We'd be monogamous. We'd settle down, and I'd stop taking prep.
Hashtag
That,
guys.
you know, isn't it cute how things
cute.
change? But I will say, once I started prep, it takes some. I don't take pills for anything. I hate pills. I hate swallowing.
Me too.
Believe it or not. I used
I
to.
have a strong gag reflex.
Me too.
Me too.
I used to like,
24.
but I do smoke weed a lot, and like I used to have a lot of anxiety. Like, did I take my pill today? Did I take my pill today? Like,
Yeah.
I got one of those weekly pill boxes just for my
Oh, you granny.
little blue pill, little Truvada pill. It's not a little pill. It's actually really big, but you get used to it. But it's taking that pill every day. It's just like a quick reminder. Like it just. I don't want to say like I second guess my decisions, but I would say
You.
this might just be me, but I'm still like a freak and probably irresponsible. I'm still not wearing condoms and all that, but I feel like I've been having less risky sex since I've been taking
I
prep.
think that's
I feel like I've been making better choices. Is what I'm saying.
I think that's partially because you're more aware of stuff.
Yeah.
Like before, it's easy to just not think about, be like, fuck it, whatever. I want instant gratification.
Exactly. And I'm
like,
saying that because I was planning on taking prep because I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna like go to sex parties all the time, go to the bathhouse and just open my whole friendly life. Which, you know, if you catch me leaving chairs
Let me know when
at
that
2 a.m.
So,
Give me the Facebook
put a
invite.
Facebook
to
invite,
that.
exactly.
I was gonna say I work across the street from the bathhouse, honey. Like
Oh.
I'll keep an eye out.
When is this
Can
happening?
you get
Okay.
some deals?
Yeah.
It's getting pricey there.
Mm-hmm.
Used to be cheaper 10 years ago. So, but Brandon is very right. You know, studies have shown that in general, you know, this isn't complete, this isn't everyone, but in general, people on PrEP are just absolutely more empowered about their health. There's, in general, most people who are on PrEP who were wearing condoms before are still wearing condoms.
Yes.
With a couple people who said, oh, I'm not going to wear them anymore. Most people who weren't wearing condoms before are still not wearing condoms, with some that started wearing condoms because they're, again, thinking more about it.
Right.
We also know that the CDC has said only 17% of gay men regularly wear condoms. And I think it's only about 21% of straight men.
Wait,
Wow.
17%?
Only 17% of gay men
Holy
regularly wear
wow.
condoms. So all these guys who on Grindr or wherever say, "Oh, always wear a condom," you know, I don't know where that
They're
voice came from,
probably
but they are lying, or they just
All those guys, they don't even have. I have condoms and I use
crazy.
them. All those guys,
Absolutely.
like,
The last guy I had sex with, he was like, "Oh, I can't get."
I think they just say it because it's
the
hot to
whole,
not wear the
I
condom.
can't get hard without a condom. It's like,
Oh please.
yes, you can.
I'm one of those
you
guys,
asshole.
Julie.
Don't you fake you're hard on. I see you. You're
It's
hard.
like it's my dick's kryptonite. Okay.
absolutely.
Wait. So
I can't say shit. Like,
And I will tell you, I'm glad you
I
said
don't
that,
wear
Benny,
condoms.
because I wasn't expecting PrEP to empower
With
my
him.
health, but I do
Oh,
care about my health
I
now
mean,
more.
Absolutely.
That it's like it's a little daily reminder. Like I need to take care of myself, my body,
Absolutely.
and you know, your sexual health is part of everything, all your health. You know, like so.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And you know, you mentioned it, like people that always wear condoms, they're still wearing condoms, and you're right about that because I think of PrEP or Truvada as just like another prevention
Tool.
in my toolbox to prevent
That's the word
this.
we use.
Yeah.
I like that. It's a fun toolbox.
What we say when we talk to all of our clients is, we are not here to tell anyone, including anyone listening, how to protect yourself. The only person you can protect, first of all, is yourself.
Right.
So all of this social media, Facebook crap of "fuck you all that don't wear condoms," it's none of your damn business. Where you?
Oh my
it's up to you.
god, I'm so
But
guilty of that. I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
Everyone.
It's okay. It's okay. Our only goal is to. I mean, you can. you can still say things on Facebook.
Right, but the
what
idea is that it's about
your
you.
goal is to do is to share a menu of things with people.
Yes.
Educate, not say wear a condom or die, but say, oh, there's condoms, there's PrEP, there's different sexual positions, there's jacking off, there's kissing, there's
Give
whatever.
solutions.
Give
not
solutions, yeah.
criticism
Not
like that.
criticisms.
Yeah.
The
And so,
alternative is just ignorance, right?
yeah,
Exactly,
yeah.
yes.
So you're fine speaking up, and you should.
Thank you.
A lot of guys, for example, will come into us and say, you know, the old "my dick's too big, I'm not going to wear a condom." So
you.
I'm not, and right, I say that too. But I'm not.
Magnums.
But what I'm not going to say is you better wear a condom. I'm going to say, okay, so since your dick is too big, what can we do?
You're right.
What else can we do to get you to protect yourself?
probably shouldn't say
How
fuck
about
you.
you get?
Yeah.
Well, you can.
Coconut oil.
How about you get on PrEP? We even will say now, lube is not a protectant,
Right.
but lube or coconut or whatever, anything you put on your penis is some sort of blockade.
Yes.
Also, especially with anal sex, more lube means less friction.
There you go. Yeah.
So there's less likely for tears.
Yeah.
So
Which is less likely
even
for-
more lube is part of our toolkit. Lube is a good thing. If you want to wear the old trusty condom. But at the end of the day, you can only protect yourself. So we always used to say, have the conversation about status. You can, but I really don't care what your status is because you could lie to me, or maybe you were negative 2 years ago.
And now it's changed.
And-
you
and-
haven't
but you
gotten
haven't gone.
tested.
Dude,
Yeah.
3 months
sex
ago.
with pause guys is hotter because you know they're freaks in bed. I'm sorry, but
They can be.
I get
And-
turned on having sex with a positive guy.
They can, well, and you know,
Amazing.
I'll be honest. You know, probably one of the safest partners you can have is an HIV undetectable person. Not only are they willing to tell you that they're positive,
Yes.
but that means they're on their meds. And I think Brandon wants to get into this.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up
Go for
because
it.
this CDC just published a report that undetectable equals
Untransmittable.
untransmittable. Yeah,
Oh,
you
wow.
equals you. So if you have HIV, and we've kind of, the gay community, we've talked about this a lot. We've known this for a while, but it's a big deal now because it was just confirmed
You guys
in
have
this
so many
CDC.
secrets.
But this was just, oh man, gay people are fucking organized
You
and
know
on top
everything.
of it. But the
You know what to do.
CDC report was so important because it verified what we've always kind of known is that if you are HIV positive but your viral load is undetectable, like it doesn't show up on a test,
Yeah.
you know, in the doctor's office, you 100% right
100%.
cannot infect another person
Follow-up
with
question. Could you potentially have some kind of evolution in the virus over time that will become detectable?
No, I'm not.
You're just good for life? Is it a...
Well,
Well, here's
I'm not God, Julie.
I'm so sorry.
here's how. Oh, go
If you're
ahead, and then
listening,
I'll
guys.
explain how undetectable works.
I
but-
just had a question kind of following up
Yeah.
with her. With I understand what you're saying about the evolution of it, but what I would consider is since it's an immunosuppressant type of disease, like if you got sick, would it be presentable again? Or if you stopped taking your meds, would it become presentable
Absolutely,
again?
yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So here's how it works. So what undetectable means is someone is HIV positive. They have the virus, and they but they're on the medications.
Okay.
The medications are so strong today. So here's HIV does two things. It goes into your body. It takes over your bloodstream. It two writes itself into your DNA code.
Okay.
Into your cells.
Right.
So, the medications have figured out how to suppress it in your bloodstream. So, it pretty much makes the number of HIV antibodies in your blood so low that it's less than 100 copies versus somebody who's
Oh my
super
goodness.
infectious that might have 5 million copies.
That's crazy. That range is
Yeah.
ridiculous.
So because of that, as long as they're on the meds, we don't transmit things through our cells. So if I were to, I hate to keep bringing Brandon up, but he's probably the only person in the room that I
Guinea pig.
could potentially have sex with. So, if I were to have HIV and I were to fuck Brandon right now, and I had HIV, but I were undetectable, I don't give Brandon my cells. I give him my cum and potentially my blood.
Okay, very
So,
generous.
so
In
if
your
I
essence.
yeah, in my essence, of course.
And the memories.
And he's wearing very short shorts. I can almost see it all.
Pants optional, man.
Yeah.
Hey.
So, but if that were to happen, I don't pass on my cells to you. I just pass on my blood and cum. So if I'm undetectable, I can't do that. You're still positive because it's
Yeah.
still in your DNA code.
But it's so low.
But
that
it's
it
so low
doesn't
that you can't
matter.
pass it. But if you did go off your meds, absolutely you'd become detectable again because your cells would tell your blood, get sick again.
And here's something I want to say,
It's amazing.
because it kind of sounds like an oxymoron, but you're not going to get HIV from somebody that has it, that's taking their meds, that's doing everything they're supposed to do.
Absolutely.
You are going to get HIV from somebody that does not know they have it, or they're just not taking care of themselves, or they're lying to you. And I say that because your sexual health is your responsibility and your
100%.
choice. And this is something that I just learned like a few years ago.
But it's
I'm
so
30
important.
now. But it's so important. But you think about it, like, I mean, you can like kind of play the victim and you get it here and there, but it's just like, no, like, unless you were raped, your sexual health is your choice. Like, you
100%.
make the rules. You have the
Absolutely.
say. So
The majority of, not the majority, but many of the new infections we're seeing today are absolutely from people who just don't know they have it. The number of people living with HIV in San Diego County is 18,000 something.
crap.
But it's like 20% of them or something that actually don't know. So that's an estimate that don't know they are living with it. And we're seeing so many new cases come in. All these guys, well, I'm monogamous with my boyfriend. And I'm like, oh, your damn boyfriend and you. Your boyfriend went away for the weekend to a conference in Chicago and your boyfriend fooled around and brought HIV back into the relationship. So
my goodness.
even then, protect yourself.
you know why I love gay marriage so much, Benny?
Right.
Because now I have a lot more husbands to fuck.
Oh, absolutely. We're one big community of husbands, yeah. And
I have a quick question.
Yes.
Was that 18,000 gay men in San Diego or 18,000 people?
people in general.
Oh, I've always thought it was more. I've never done my research, but I thought it was 30,000 people for some reason.
Yeah, it's 18,000 in San Diego County, in the county of San Diego.
Right, not like the surrounding.
Yeah, and I
Got it,
think
yeah.
it's, I can't remember the number in the U.S., but I think it's 500,000 U.S. But don't quote me on that.
No worries. I think it's fascinating.
yeah.
I just never knew. Yeah.
Absolutely, and the highest risk groups, of course, remain to be MSMs, and
Okay.
I'm not going to sound insensitive right now. I'm just going to talk in state numbers.
Right.
The state still classifies transgender women as MSMs, men, sex with men.
Yes.
Even though transgender women are
Are
absolutely women.
separate, in my opinion, absolutely.
But the state still classifies them. So at the center, if a transgender woman comes in, we absolutely treat them as a woman,
Yes.
and as they are.
Right.
But unfortunately, the state reporting processes
They're so
still separate that out.
Well,
and
yeah.
we're working
Old
very
school.
hard to change that.
Absolutely.
Well, I did just hear that California did just officially allow non-binary to be a selection
Yes.
on a birth
One-
certificate
one-
and driver's license.
Wonderful thing, and we have our local state senator Tony Atkins to thank for
Yes.
that.
Hey, I remember. I voted for.
I voted
did
for
too.
her
I
too.
voted
She's a wonderful woman who started as a community organizer in this very neighborhood and
Very awesome.
became our city council member, interim mayor for a while, state assembly member. She's now one of our state senators.
Fantastic.
She pushed that bill through. So yeah, basically in the state of California now, you can choose male, female, or a non-binary marker.
So do you think that would push it in the correct direction?
It will. It's going to be pushing a lot of these things in the correct direction
Okay.
to change these things. But transgender women have a very high incidence rates with HIV, as do gay men. And then black men. We're very concerned about our black male MSM
Yes.
community. As you know, racism is alive and well in the United States.
Oh, 100%.
And racism does not just mean burning crosses on a lawn or people dressed in white robes.
Not anymore.
Racism means a lot of systemic things.
They have
and-
less access.
Less access,
Which will kill you.
which will kill people, exactly. And it is why somebody just said to me the other day, I went to a forum, and it was a forum of long-term HIV survivors, and everyone in the group except I think one person was white. These are people that have lived with HIV 20,
my
30 years.
goodness.
And we thought, someone said, well, why is this group so white? And I thought, probably because white people had
health
had health insurance and more likelihood to
Have access.
become a survivor.
Absolutely.
They got to survive.
Privilege. And
yeah.
doesn't
Oh
mean
my
that they didn't
fucking
deserve
God.
it. Doesn't mean that I'm
Mm-hmm.
not happy they're alive. It just means that I hope they're aware. I hope a lot of people are aware of that.
Yeah.
That
privilege.
black person may not be able to get tested every 3 months like I am. Like it's not
I
their
didn't
fault
grow
that
up
they.
seeing a doctor. It just wasn't something my family did.
And I hate that. You know, it's not their fault that they don't know they have HIV, but they don't have the access.
If you're asking them to pay hundreds of dollars a month
Hundreds.
when they're already getting that in food stamps just to eat, just to live every 7 days, like
Yeah.
what makes you think they can afford health care?
How are you supposed to organize your
Impossible.
And
health
it's-
care when you're living on fucking food stamps, right?
Especially
Yeah.
with something that is pretty much unrecognizable. Like there are no, as far as I know, systemic like signs of like you having it, other than like you probably get sick more often, and when you get sick, it gets really bad. But like it could just be like, oh, I'm just tired and I'm stressed out because you're doing manual labor and because you're
Yeah.
because that's
And they might
what,
just pass it off as a flu or a whatever.
People are retiring later and they're dying younger. It's really sad.
It is. It's a sad state of affairs we're in, and absolutely true that people of color continue to lack access to health care. And anyone, even on PrEP, for example, like to go in to see my doctor every 4 months, that's a $40 copay. I am very blessed with great health insurance and a job that
Absolutely.
pays me decently well, and side jobs that pay me even more. And
Right. And you deserve it. But
and I deserve it. But other people
too.
other people deserve that too. And thinking about that, you know, someone might think, well, if I get PrEP, I got to see my doctor every 4 months, and that's a $40 copay. A $40 copay could be someone's food for the month.
Yeah, dude.
Absolutely.
So you know, we think about all those things, and you know, if you're on something like Medi-Cal, of course, you don't pay copays to see the doctor. So we want you to also know that there are those resources out there, and we can help
Right.
you get onto that. But a lot of people don't know that, and
And
you know, Rick,
education.
Rick Cervantes, who was supposed to be here today, you know, he grew up. He's first generation. His parents were immigrants from Mexico. Like you said. They didn't go to the doctor. Rick always yells at me. He says, "You're so white. You run to the doctor every time." Like I get a little sore throat. You run to urgent care. I love urgent care. And,
Me
You know, 'cause
too,
that's
yes.
that's been my privilege to have this little urgent care.
100%.
He said we
Absolutely.
would wait until the last moment, and then we'd sit in the ER for 6 hours. I have never
Absolutely.
been to the emergency room in my life.
Wow.
But I've been privileged to be able to go to urgent care to fix things before it
here.
gets to that
Yeah.
level. But I
the way
also
it should
understand.
be.
I understand that the ER is the only option for people,
For so
and they
many
treat
different-
you like you're basically in prison when you're
Yeah.
sitting there.
Yeah, it's like, oh, you're not spewing blood right
Yeah,
now.
then just
you can
wait,
fucking wait.
So, but that is the option for people. So,
It's so sad.
we've got to get healthcare in line. We are the wealthiest country in the nation. I mean, on the planet. And
Congress right now, though.
is ridiculous.
Oh
we
my
treat healthcare like it's
God.
like it's going
it's
to
a
the like it's going to the
product.
Gucci store.
We're lucky.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I know I have friends that live in other states, but I know people that have trouble getting on PrEP in our own state, California, and we
Absolutely.
live in a metropolitan city. We live in San Diego. We're the 8th
Yep.
most populated city in the country.
I didn't
and
know that.
It took
Very
me
cool.
it took me about 2 years to get prescribed PrEP. Like I will admit it seems like it's an easier process now, but it seems like it might be getting more difficult now with Trump.
Trump.
Yeah.
Like health insurance getting hairy now.
Well, we already know what he's doing to Obamacare, so it wouldn't be
Yep.
out of character for him to
Yeah.
roll back that kind of
But
thing.
you know, if you're lucky enough, like us, to live in a place like a metropolitan area, they're not advertising it, but there are resources. And I'm poor as fuck. I'm on food stamps, and it took me time. It's frustrating. Just don't lose hope. But that it is possible to get on this drug if you feel
Just need to be
it's gonna help
educated.
you.
Just need
Yeah.
to be informed.
Mm-hmm.
And
You gotta.
it's not always someone's fault to not know, but once they're aware, it's kind of our responsibility to do more research. I mean, Google is available to even the poorest person at the library.
And there's so many
I mean,
resources
thank
like Benny
God.
in the center that
Yeah,
will
but-
help
And no
us
matter
point us in the
where
right
you
direction.
live, you can contact the San Diego LGBT Center. Even
Yeah.
if you're
Yeah.
even if you're in Arkansas, you can email us at outreach@thecentersd.org, and we will connect you.
Let's
because
get
again,
that a little clearer on the
yeah.
mic. What was that?
outreach. That's the word outreach. OUTREACH at centersd.org. I've had mimosas.
Yes.
Well,
No, you're
Outreach
fine.
at thecentersd.org.
We'll link it too.
We'll link it, yeah.
And we will,
We'll link all
we
this
will,
shit.
we will connect you wherever you are. We'll find it because again, our goal is just to help. We're not competing with the center in New York. Like, we just want to help end this.
The
thing.
goal is to end HIV,
Yeah.
right? And the
Yeah.
infection.
People often ask me, what do you think about the other campaign at that other agency down the street? I'm like, wonderful.
Yeah.
Let them do
Get
their damn
more
campaign.
out there.
Our campaign's way better and cuter.
Whenever-
But,
yeah.
But let me just say,
But
like,
we don't care
Sassy.
where you get an HIV test, how you get an HIV test, who does it. We just want to end this goddamn thing. We're here to help.
Yes.
I think that the biggest thing, honestly, is people need to stop communicating through fucking memes and emojis.
I like memes though.
I do. I'm not shitting on them. I'm just
Right.
saying, like, when it comes to sex and when it comes to your own personal health, not being awkward about it is very important. Like, it took me a long time, and I grew up with the same kind of privilege that you did, where I got to be able to go to Sharp Healthcare, and
That's
my parents
amazing.
worked at a local company that was very.
Must be nice.
It was nice, and now I'm out of
Shame.
that.
Especially the tea they offer when
You
you check
white bitch.
Like
And I'm
devil.
just saying, as someone who's had that their entire life, and now I am changing immediately to the normal thing. I am fucking terrified because I don't know what I'm gonna be able to get.
Right, because you're 25, right? So you
Yeah.
no longer
Well,
can
it's
be
not
on there.
just that, but my parents moved out of state, so I'm not covered by their insurance anymore. My mom doesn't
my
have a
goodness.
job anymore.
Shit's getting real.
So it's like
Welcome to
I
Obamacare.
had another 9 months because it's up until you're 26.
yeah,
But now it's like, no, I'm gonna find it now.
single
and-
payer health insurance to me
and-
is a no brainer. But I'm also
You know,
very
obviously-
poor, so I'm biased.
I want to talk about stigma. What's HIV stigma today in your mind? Because, you know, we all had some HIV prejudice growing up, right? What's it like today, you think?
It's still alive and real, and with some minor changes, and it's getting better. It's still 1984. My quick story is, you know, I'm a little older than everyone at the table here. I was born in 1980. I'm 37 years old. So,
Okay.
20-year high school reunions next year. That's so weird.
Oh my
But
goodness,
can you
yeah.
imagine? But was Romy and Michelle? Did they go to their 10 or their 20 year?
I think it was their 10.
That's 10. That was my favorite movie ever.
I love
Anyway,
Romeo and Michelle.
we when I was a teenager, it was when I started high school. It was 1995, and what they were doing at that time was the education to the youth. And I grew up in San Diego City schools, so they were pretty good about educating us.
Yeah.
It wasn't like backcountry Arkansas. No offense, I keep bringing that state up. I don't
No
know
worries.
why.
Hey.
That's his state.
Oh, weird! I've never even been there. I don't know why I'm even thinking of it. So, weird.
cares?
So anyway,
It's a bullshit state.
I guess so. I hear it's. What's the theme of the state?
The natural state.
The natural state. Yeah, whatever.
It's beautiful.
Is it? That's
I've
what I've
been
heard.
there, but there are some things.
There's some issues. So what they used to do, the whole education in the mid 90s was fear. Let's scare them into safe sex. So I went to Patrick Henry High School, and I will never forget. PHHS. I will never forget Patriots. I will never forget the day in 1996 when they had a panel of 4 HIV positive gay men that they paraded in front of us at an assembly. And they were all in their 20s. One of them had a walker. 2 of them had a cane, and one of them had to sit in a chair.
Oh my
and they had all the typical signs of HIV from the olden days: the facial wasting,
And the sores and
the sores. One of them did have Kaposi-sarcoma,
Why
which
did they
was
bring
because
that-
it was to scare us.
Oh my
And this was 1996, so this is
Holy
a different
shit.
time.
Yeah.
And we were all sitting there, and basically the point was I remember I will never forget the guy that said you'll have diarrhea for the rest of your life. And
Kids
I
hate
remember
diarrhea.
sitting there. And this doesn't happen anymore, but I just remember sitting there, and I had just maybe 6 months prior had my first sexual encounter with the boy down the street. I was a boy too, so.
So you just
know.
you
Yeah.
assume you're just going.
I
to
assumed
hell.
I assumed
Yeah,
I assumed I had AIDS, not just HIV but AIDS, because I sucked this boy's dick when I was 15. He was 15 too.
Right.
It wasn't like a weird thing.
But they see
And,
you into thinking the worst.
But they said that, so I literally was getting really shaky, and I still to this day have anxiety problems. But I like stood up out of my seat in the auditorium, or the cafetorium. They didn't have an auditorium back then, and they just built a beautiful one. But I walked on the steps, and then I just was like feeling shaky. I walked out of the auditorium and fell to the ground.
Oh my god.
And then I was taken in the nurse's office, and I said, "Oh, I haven't eaten all day. I'm just
Yeah, yeah, 'cause you
But
weren't comfortable.
yeah, but
Yeah.
anyway, with that said, 15 was my first sexual encounter. I've admitted this in some articles I've written.
Yeah.
I did not get my first HIV test till I was 28 years old.
So much
13
anxiety.
Years, 13 years. I remember being 23 and saying I had a cold.
Yeah.
And one of my grandmas died that year, and I remember saying I'm going to join her in heaven this year after Christmas because this will be my last Christmas. I'm dying of AIDS, but I just didn't want to know. Finally got HIV tests, and here I am today. But I still today I do HIV testing a couple weeks a month or a couple hours a month because I'm trained in that. And people always say millennials, they are these young people, they don't care, they don't know, they think they can take a pill. I still have people that come in that are 19 years old, shaking in their boots, sitting in my chair, feeling the same way. I've never been tested. I think I'm gonna die. They end up negative, but
how did
I
that
feel like
feel?
I remember that feeling, Benny, because I felt it too. And there's this you know what that fear creates? It creates like people not taking that test. They think like they're afraid to take it, or you manipulate that thought and you think like, well, I'm still negative if I don't get the test.
It's
you know,
anxiety running wild.
It shouldn't be a scary thing, and there is power in knowing your status.
Absolutely.
And go ahead.
And that's one of the things that, as someone who suffers very severely from anxiety, like for a long time it shut me down. Like I was so anxious about handling bills and handling money that I just didn't do it, so it got worse and worse and worse. And that's what I think needs to stop happening.
Yeah.
Like especially with, getting tested and knowing your status is such an important part, just not only for your physical health and your partner's health, but for your own mental health. Because like I've had days, and you guys may not empathize with this, but thinking I'm fucking pregnant and being like, oh shit, like what am I gonna do? Like holy shit, like if this happens and I know that I'm fine, but if this happens and fuck, I also know that I'm fine, but it's gonna be a rough fucking road. And that's where we're at now, is that like not knowing is kind of like sticking your head in the sand, and that's not gonna make anything happen. It's just gonna make everyone butts in the air with not any.
All this fear stems from ignorance, right?
Yeah.
And once you educate yourself and you understand what HIV is all about, the treatment's all about, it's really today. This might like shock some people, but it's not a big deal anymore,
it's
right?
So
if you're smart about it.
Yeah, it makes me feel so much more comfortable, and this is as someone who's not a gay man. It's like just knowing all the dicks I've sucked.
So obviously there's a lot of HIV stigma, but there's also stigma within the LGBTQ plus community. Let's talk about that. Like, I face some stigma. I know there's like this sense from some gay guys that have just been maybe scared straight. Like, well, we wouldn't need Truvada if you just wore condoms or if you were just monogamous, all that shit. What do you think about that?
It's very real and true, and I see it on social media almost every day, every time there's an article posted. And it really just boils down to, again, the story I told a few minutes ago. It freaked the fuck out of everyone. HIV is no different than, to be honest, diabetes. We call them chronic manageable blood conditions. That's all they are. As long as you're taking your meds. In fact, not to down diabetes, if I had to choose, I'd rather have HIV. Think about diabetes.
Yeah.
You gotta test your blood sugar every hour. You gotta take a shot. If you have too much sugar, you go into insulin shock.
Yeah.
HIV, in general, if you're on your meds, you're good.
It's scary because it killed so many of us in the 80s.
It killed so many because we didn't know what it was. And coupled with that was the hatred surrounded by it. People weren't hating people that had diabetes, even though every day, all of us, and I'm just as guilty, so no offense, we have mimosas surrounding this table. I'll guzzle down my sweets at Starbucks every morning.
Yeah, I have a sweet tooth.
We don't shame people who, are eating sugar and drinking bottles of Coca-Cola.
But we should.
I do a little bit.
I mean, but
please shame me. Not a problem.
I haven't drank a soda in 10 years, but I can still drink alcohol. But God, today, today there's every Friday at Baby Cakes, there's a thing called Benny Hour, starting at 4:00, and I'll have 3 bottles of wine before 10 o'clock.
Benny Hour?
So,
that's you?
Oh, it's a great place. Benny Hour is me. Yeah.
I love Baby Cakes.
What?
You know Jeremiah?
Of course, yeah. Well, I work there once a month, but I'm their most regular customer.
I have a question.
Jeremiah's
I just signed up yesterday for their birthday
bash.
Yeah,
that's the event I work at. Yeah.
So, I signed up for the birthday newsletter too. Like, so my birthday's next month. And they said you get a free
cupcake.
Free cupcake on your birthday with ID. I like pistachio or the black bottom.
Pistachio is so fucking good. I went there on my birthday. unbelievably good.
Unbelievably
It
good.
was
Yeah,
so
it's
good.
so good.
I gotta do a pistachio.
It's so
I'm
good.
sorry, I know it's off topic.
Try the
God
pistachio.
damn.
Hey
Yeah.
guys, when you guys are done talking about cupcakes, I like to get back to the HIV conversation.
So anyway, what was I saying? Oh, so people will shame, like today, Benny Hour is this thing I do every Friday at Baby Cakes, and I invite it's an open invite at 4:00. I sit at my little seat. Friends come and go throughout the night. Brandon comes and does comedy on the bar sometimes. Maybe that's where the new show will be. But anyway, in all reality, we don't have shame about people who do other things that can make other diseases happen in their body. And I'm not shaming anyone that drinks wine or eats sweets, because I do all that shit.
Yeah.
But we have this weird relationship with sex, and so we shame people who got HIV, and what happened in the 80s was just uncomparable to anything else. And it was so dramatic and so frightening to everyone's psyche that even those of you today who weren't even born till 1990, I'm guessing,
Right, yep.
and beyond, you weren't even alive during those days. I mean, I was a child,
You
but
lived it. You remember the horror.
We all are just
I watched it
so
on YouTube.
freaked out. Yeah, as a
There
history.
was funerals every weekend.
Funerals. It was not until 1998 that the East Bay whatever the San Francisco gay paper is.
Yeah.
It was from 1981 till 98 that every week they published 1 or 3 pages worth of AIDS obituaries, and they had a major headline I can't remember what month, but in 1998. No obituaries this week, the first time in 28 years.
Wow.
Or 18 years. And so that was a really big deal.
Yeah.
And I remember, because when I was 15, I started picking up the gay papers in 95. I remember flipping through, all these papers are all defunct, but older listeners may remember Update, the Gay and Lesbian Times. I remember opening them every week and seeing these obituaries, and I was like, this is weird.
Right.
I don't understand this. I'm just a teenager. But so I got a glimpse of that as a teenager.
That's terrifying.
So it's even more terrifying. Xanax is my great friend today, but I have to go talk to the doctor today to make sure he'll keep prescribing that, because it's on those lists of things that they have to control. And I'm not abusing it; I just need it. So anyway, the stigma has continued on to your generation. Because you're millennials and I'm technically not. So I'm on the bridge. I'm a Gen Xennial. Yes, thank you. So the terror around it is what continues the stigma today, and we have to end it. So the back of my shirt, I'm wearing a Be the Generation shirt, and this is what we'll end this little chat with, or at least this part with, is my shirt says fight, test, treat, protect.
Yes.
And what that means is, if we don't fight the stigma, fear, and shaming, the other things don't matter.
Exactly.
We won't, because if people are still afraid, they're not going to test.
They're not going to invest.
And then if they are, and if they are positive, we're not going to treat them. And if they are negative, we're not going to protect them. So the pyramid on the back of my shirt, fighting stigma, fear, and shaming, is all that matters.
Sex isn't a bad thing.
Right.
Let me say that again. Sex is not a bad thing.
It's a wonderful thing.
Sex is supposed to be a fun thing. It can be a great thing. It should be an enjoyable thing. It should feel good. It should be personal,
a romantic
special
thing. It can be all sorts of things.
It's okay to like sex. It is okay to like lots of sex. It's okay to have as much sex as you want with as many people as you want.
Wherever you want.
We all need to get on board with that. That is the future.
I'm on board. I like sex.
Sex is not just for procreation, because again, using the Brandon and me analogy, we're clearly not going to procreate.
We need to fuck on the table.
We might as well have a Halloween party.
They're visual learners.
It's whatever and wherever, as long as it's legal and consensual. And even some of the laws regarding sex are a little puritanical, but we got to stick with those because you don't want to be in jail. But yeah, sex is absolutely something we are created to do. God or whoever you believe in didn't make it feel good just because he wanted you to have a goddamn baby.
It's a way to physically connect with another human being, right?
That's exactly what I was going to say. Because to be honest, like most of my realizations of myself happened like during or right after sex, whether they were good experiences or bad experiences.
Yeah.
I learned a lot about myself once I started having sex.
It's like a gross, slimy, wet handshake you have with somebody you really like.
Wow.
Like, hey, I want to
That's
put this inside you, Julie. I like you so much.
I like that.
That's not at all how I would describe it, but
I like
well,
it.
start taking prep and you'll look at.
okay.
You know what? That's the best.
I've had a fair amount of anonymous sex, like just like
I've
don't
never
know.
heard
I
it
had sex last
explained that
night.
way.
I don't really know.
I like the handshake metaphor.
Are there-
I think that's beautiful.
I do too.
It's a handshake of your heart.
Aww.
Really
And
is,
your
yeah.
dick.
genitals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, some will say, and some will say, some men and some women see sex a little differently. It's not always true.
Sure.
But men typically have that testosterone sex drive. Not to say that women don't want to fuck all the time too, because some do. But oftentimes, many men, and not all men, but many gay men, I would fuck any person in this room that's a male right now, probably, if I was attracted to them, and I would just be like, whatever, and the day goes on.
Matt?
I got excited for a moment.
I know. I was like, really? Would you fuck me?
And some women have told me, well, it's more emotional for me, and that's not true.
Yeah.
Not true for everyone, but in general, there's different sex drives. Probably one of the
Your
biggest
Uber's
differences.
outside.
Yeah. So exactly. I mean, I hooked up with an Uber driver. So
I hooked up with Lyft.
That's the only way I tip my Uber driver now, Benny.
and there's some hot Uber drivers. So.
I love it. We gotta wrap it up.
I love
We all
how hard
got
it-
places to be.
There's
but-
3 more points I want to
absolutely.
just touch on. Are there any side effects to PrEP and Truvada? Sometimes I hear there's been a rise of all the other STIs. I heard there's super syphilis out there now because of PrEP. I know it's a lot of bullshit, but
Well, there
what are
is
the
a super gonorrhea or something.
what are the facts,
Yeah,
Benny?
good
And what do
question,
you
yeah.
think about that?
Here's the simple answer. First, the side effects. PrEP, like Truvada, like any other drug, has 7,000 side effects listed on the bottle, just like
Wow.
all those things you see on TV.
Exactly.
But in general, there's limited or no side effects. I had absolutely no side effects, but I also take Xanax and drink a lot of wine. So
that helps.
My body was probably like, who the fuck cares? Here's another
Exactly. You
chemical.
already got something else going on.
Rick Cervantes, who's supposed to be here today, had 3 days of minor gas, and he
Okay.
speaks about that publicly.
Yeah.
And it went away. So in general, the side effects are minor and they go away.
Good.
As for the STIs and all that crap, there are definitely some new strains of the STIs, but it's not because of PrEP.
Right,
And like
that's
I said,
ridiculous.
in general, people on PrEP are, absolutely people on PrEP are testing for STIs more than anyone
They're
else.
the most
because they
healthy.
have to test for
Exactly.
STIs
They're
to
like-
continue
yeah.
it. And if they get an STI, we'll treat them. The shots are not good. I've had syphilis, and you get 2 big old Chevy over an STI.
That-
I've had chlamydia.
Benny, I'm
I
glad
gotta
you
take
brought
yours
that up.
for it.
no
Yeah.
fun.
That
but-
goddamn needle, you got to get that shot in your
Yeah.
ass. That
And they-
needle was bigger than my ex-boyfriend's dick. Benny.
Absolutely, and they sit it there for like 3 minutes while this thick gel goes
And
into
the
your ass.
and the bitch nurse is like, now don't tense up or it's gonna hurt more.
Yep.
You bitch.
And you can't sit down for like
Yeah.
3 days. But we're testing and we're treating for
You're
these
getting
things. Yeah.
shit done. How
Yeah.
many people are out there, straight people or whatever, having sex without a condom, without protection, and they're not getting that shot at
Yep.
all?
And they're screaming about it and like, you and your STDs. I'm like, when was your last STD check? 5
Exactly.
years ago.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you.
so all those things are myths. PrEP is a good thing. Sex is a good thing. Condoms work too if you want it.
be
Just be
responsible.
responsible.
Treat it like
Take care of yourself.
alcohol.
Yep. Take care of yourself. The Center and Be the Generation can be reached at thecentersd.org, which will be
Yes.
linked in the comments, or I don't know
Hashtag
how,
call
I don't know
Benny.
how
It'll
this
be linked
works,
everywhere.
but I know on YouTube you say down there, look.
We,
Exactly,
we
yeah.
have a couple more minutes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where do you see HIV treatment? What's the future of HIV treatment and prevention? I heard that Truvada might be turned into a shot we'll get every month or every 3 months. Are we just taking PrEP until something better is
Absolutely.
created? Are we waiting for a vaccine? Or are we waiting for a cure? Can they turn the pill into a suppository? Because I won't forget a
That'd be fun
suppository.
for you, yeah. I don't think so. You're an anal receptor. So,
Yes.
can I anal insert it? So, see, it works.
Science.
I do think absolutely, because again, one of the biggest problems with PrEP and also adherence to people living with HIV's medication, people struggle to take a drug every day, especially PrEP. So one of the other medicines I take is Prilosec for acid reflux. I drink too much wine. And if I don't take that Prilosec, if I forget, I will start to feel that burn in my esophagus. So I gotta take it. But with PrEP, you're not treating anything. If you don't take your PrEP for 10 days, you wouldn't feel anything different. So PrEP is moving towards, there are some trials for a vaccine. You get it quarterly. Hopefully one day there will be like a one-time vaccine like the Hep A that lasts for 20 years, and then you're good.
Be convenient.
I hope to also see, obviously, a cure for HIV and AIDS.
100%.
Scientists feel closer than ever to that. We can go on about conspiracy theories. I don't know if it's already found and they're hiding it because it does make money to
It
treat
would cost the pharmaceutical companies millions
of dollars because they're making a lot of money off of treating people. But I hope people aren't that heartless. But I don't have that kind of faith in U.S. corporations
Fair enough.
or politicians. But either way, I do believe that public health professionals and LGBT centers are going to push for at least a preventative like PrEP to be something that gets better than a daily pill.
Yes, and I would love to be an ambassador. I think there's people like me that would also love to be ambassadors, and that's what's probably really going to get it rolling is people like us, like all
Absolutely.
of us. Yeah.
I want everyone to be an ambassador. Email that address that they're going to link or they linked.
Yes,
and,
absolutely.
And contact me. I always take on new ambassadors.
That's
and
a
I'd love
great, fun way to be involved because, I mean, you're killing two birds with one stone. Like, you get to hang out where a lot of people that... And, you know what? We should mention this. Not just gay people are on
Not
PrEP
at
or
all.
Truvada.
Everyone
Not at
that's
all.
having sex, which is everyone in the world, hopefully.
If you're having sex, you can get HIV,
Except
okay?
for kids. Oh my
Our
God.
goal is everyone should be on PrEP. Well, I mean, and teenagers are having sex too, but
True,
teenagers, but not kids.
Right,
yeah,
not kids.
God.
Everyone else,
Ew,
though. Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
Please, get informed.
We have heterosexual couples where one partner is HIV positive.
Okay.
And they want to have a child and one's on PrEP. We have
Lots of planning, yeah.
We have, I mean, and it's no joke. I mean, especially the straight dudes in the San Diego downtown gas lamp corridor, those boys hook up with. My
Oh,
God.
yeah.
So, you know, everyone that's having sex should be on PrEP. And
Absolutely.
everyone, the county of San Diego says everyone. I don't care if you're a 95-year-old, my 95-year-old grandma who hasn't had sex
In
since
those nursing
1947.
homes, they're having sex now.
Get an
Gross.
HIV test every year.
Yes. Yes.
If you're really active every 3 months, if you're kind of active every 6 months, everyone.
year.
If you have sex,
Every year.
get an HIV test. Get
You
tested
can
for
live
everything.
with it. It's not a death sentence.
Nope,
It's
we'll
not
take
the
care of
end
it.
of the world. Just get it done. You'll be fine. You can keep having sex, but you'll have better sex, safer sex.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Do you think the government created HIV with monkeys?
You know what? Good point. What do you think, Benny?
What's your official?
Well, you know, Ronald Reagan it came out in his day.
Yeah.
He wasn't very happy about it, but then the rumor is that he finally spoke up about it because Nancy's hairdresser died of AIDS.
Oh, no.
And she was very upset that she couldn't have her hairdresser anymore.
Oh,
so
wow.
That's when
I,
they started
I
caring.
don't think Nancy would have allowed him to create something that would kill her hairdresser.
Fair
because
enough.
as we all know, Nancy Reagan actually ran the White House because he
100.
was showing early signs of dementia.
Wow.
So Nancy would not have allowed gays to die.
100%.
Oh, my God.
Okay.
She was
Thank you.
Michelle Obama.
That's
at
right.
that
She sure
time.
was. Yeah. Except Michelle's a much better person.
Thank you very much. I agree.
So,
I agree.
Check out hashtag Be the Generation. I'm sure it's on all social media platforms. Go and check that feed because honestly, it will give you the recognition and understanding that it's not maybe just you or just your neighbor or just your partner or someone you knew once. It is a lot of people who are trying to make this happen and try to make a difference in the world. So it's really important to know that we're not all alone in this. And we can also give you another couple connections. What are the Facebook, Twits, and Instas?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you want more information, hashtag Be the Generation, or you can go to Facebook at Be the Generation. Instagram is at LGBT Center, and you can check them out on Twitter. It's at BTGSD.
That's Be the Generation San Diego.
Be the acronym. Benny, thank you so much for being here today.
it was a pleasure, and thank you for the mimosas.
I feel like we could have talked to you for like another several hours
yeah.
about this. I mean, I feel like
Probably could have.
we just touched the tip of the iceberg on this conversation, but it's such an interesting conversation. I mean, so much has changed in just a short amount of time. Like from when my dad was talking to a realtor about if anyone has ever lived in this house with AIDS to now, like I'm growing up and I'm taking a pill once a day to not get
it.
That's
not get it.
incredible.
It's a big change.
I mean,
Yeah.
how cool is that?
Yeah, it's so cool.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Future, man.
And not everybody knows about it yet. Why is it national news? We should all be screaming and jumping for joy.
We're doing our part.
Absolutely
We're getting
should.
it out
We're
there.
getting
And if you're in San Diego or ever visit, I am happy to talk for hours at Baby Cakes any Friday at 4:00. It's an open invite. 3766 Fifth Avenue in
Baby
Hillcrest.
Cakes.
So,
We'll be there for Benny Hour.
that's right. So
All right.
Yeah, and if you'd love more information, or if you want to be a what'd you call them?
Be the generation
ambassador. That's something that I would love to do.
We're gonna link
That's
to
great.
that.
We'll link that in our posts on
We'll
our
link it all
Facebook
there, yeah.
group. And thank you, everyone who is listening. And thank you to Benny again for coming out here and talking with us and enduring our questions. Thank you to our fellow hosts
I've
for being
learned a lot.
amazing.
I want to have sex.
I'm
Yeah,
Go
I'm
do it.
definitely
I'm amped up,
horny
man.
right now. I'm definitely
do
horny
it.
right now.
I get turned on doing
Let
my
me
job
take
every
my
day.
pants.
So,
Let me take my pants off. Thank you.
that's right. I might just too. I'm not wearing
There
it.
you
So,
Cool. Thanks,
yeah,
Benny. This
of
is
course.
great.
It was great. That was fun.
This is a
One
lot
of
of
the
fun.
funnest interviews I've done on this, and I've done a lot in 3
sweet.
years. So.
And then
Wow.
we're aiming to have all 7 episodes done by the 31st.
Thanks everyone for tuning in to episode 4 of Let Me Put My Pants On. We had a great time talking to Benny Cartwright, Director of Community Outreach for the San Diego LGBT Center. If you want to know more about PrEP, testing, or any of the center's amazing services, you can check out thecentersd.org or shoot an email to outreach@thecentersd.org. Learn how you can join Benny's efforts to eradicate HIV by searching for his campaign with hashtag #BeTheGeneration. As always, Facebook likes, iTunes subs, and iTunes reviews are the best way to help grow the show. I swear, at this point I don't care what you write, but it might be cool to get some reviews in the form of haiku. I mean, it's 17 syllables, people. Totally doable, right? I'm your producer, Matt McCoy. Your hosts are Brandon Potter, Jaleesa Johnson, and Katie Hinckley. Let Me Put My Pants On is recorded in sunny University Heights, San Diego. Please come back next Wednesday for more topical interviews and thoughtful conversation. Till next week.